What's up, everybody? It's another Thursday, so you know what that means. Welcome to another episode of InfoSec Unplugged. I'm your humble host, Davin Jackson, also known as DJax Alpha on Twitter and Instagram. I want to give a big shout out to my followers on YouTube and Twitch TV for tuning in tonight, and thank you to my Twitch followers for getting me to 101 followers. So I broke 100. Yay! This week is a very special week for me. I have three ladies here who are doing amazing things and are going to talk to you about a very important event that I think we should all take a part in. So we're going to skip the whole sponsors and everything this week because I want to get right to it. This week's guests, I have the organizers for the SharetheMicInCyber event. I have Lauren Zabierek, Camille Stewart, and Katelyn Ringrose. So please help me welcome them to the show. So we have Katelyn, Lauren, and Camille. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining.
Hey, Davin. Thanks for having us. This is so cool. This is like super intense.
Yeah, it's awesome.
No problem. Thank you for joining. So, again, like I said, I introduced you ladies, but why don't you all take a moment to introduce yourselves? Because individually, you guys are all awesome, and then collectively, it's like y'all formed a Voltron for this event. I'm showing my age a little bit, but so let's see. Let's start with Katelyn. You can introduce yourself and talk about how you got started.
Yeah, of course. Hey all, I'm Katelyn Ringrose. This week, I'm actually unemployed for the first time in my life. I get a week off between jobs. I was just at Future of Privacy Forum working as a privacy attorney. And now I'm joining Google as of March 15th, working on data governance and security in terms of public policy and government affairs. So it's exciting. How I got started is actually, pretty interesting. I think at least, in terms of, I think it's a fun journey. I used to be a teacher for refugee and immigrant children in Washington State. And there I started noticing that it was really hard for them to reach out to their attorneys. Sometimes they'd have to bike to their attorneys' offices or exchange paperwork with their brothers and sisters. And it was just kind of a lengthy and difficult process. So when I went to law school, I started a tech platform connecting juvenile immigrants with pro bono legal aid. And that's when I really started getting interested in privacy and security because we had a lot of data about children that were particularly vulnerable. So that's what got me started in this area. And it's what keeps me really passionate about it, right? What happens to our data? How is it kept safe and secure? And in many cases, security isn't just about, these bad actors that we hear about, but it's also security against our own government. So that's, what I work on, and that's what keeps me passionate. And I'll let Lauren or Camille introduce themselves next.
Okay. Well, before I bring Lauren in, I want to congratulate you on your new endeavors. And I'm going to have to update the show notes.
Yeah, I'm excited. You can put Katelyn Ringrose, watching lots of TV in her week off of work.
I'm kind of jealous. All right, Lauren. Tell everybody.
Hi. Yeah. First, I just want to say, Katelyn, I didn't know that about you. That's pretty incredible. And I'll say this sounds kind of weird because we've been all working together, but we've been working together remotely. And when Katelyn really, came on was when I went on maternity leave. So, I didn't get to work with her in such a close capacity at that point. So that's amazing. And I'm so happy to be working with you. Hi, everyone. I am Lauren Zabierek. I run the cyber project at the Harvard Kennedy School's Belfer Center. So that is like a think tank within the Harvard Kennedy School. And we really focus on matters of cyber policy as it relates to national security. But, it's kind of a weird road, I guess you can say. And I'm sure for a lot of people, it's kind of an interesting road to cybersecurity. I started my career in the military. I was an intelligence officer, so way back. And then later I joined an intelligence agency as a civilian, intelligence analyst, and I was doing counterterrorism work. So no experience in cyber, but I had to leave government because my husband got a job up in Boston and I couldn't stay, obviously. And so at the time, I thought it was going to be devastating because I was leaving everything I knew. And, the government, my friends, just, my whole world. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was very lucky to join what was then a very small startup, Recorded Future, as a solutions engineer. And then I switched over to the customer success side of the house, and I built up the public sector practice there. And that's where I learned about cyber. And that's when I became very interested in the policy side of things. And then I went to the Harvard Kennedy School for my MPA, and somehow got to land this really awesome platform, awesome job. So really grateful to be here with you, Devin, and of course all your guests. And this is really exciting. So thank you.
Well, thank you again for joining, and congratulations are also in order for your new child.
Oh, thank you.
All right, and last but certainly not least, Camille Stewart, it's on you.
Thanks for having us, Devin. Hi, everyone. I'm Camille Stewart. I am the head of security policy for Android and Google Play at Android. I am so excited to have Katelyn join the team. I have lots of work for her to join in on. And she's been such a great partner in this, and she's such a powerhouse. So I'm excited to have her on the team. I'm also a cyber fellow at the Belfer Center with Lauren, and so I get to work with her in that capacity too. So I'm very lucky to be surrounded by these two brilliant women. I got started in cybersecurity because my dad's a computer scientist, so I always had technology in my life and was playing around with it, but I also knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I used to make my parents sign contracts. I used to debate about everything, and so I had to figure out a way to do both. I thought that might be intellectual property, but quickly realized that I was having a lot more fun solving complex challenges in the cybersecurity space when I started working at Cyvalence, a cybersecurity company. So I do this work for both the intellectual stimulation of the complex challenges, but also because I'm really passionate about helping people. And I think technology is a place where we can either bridge gaps or amplify the divides in our society, and SharetheMic is a part of answering some of those divides. But a lot of my work otherwise in terms of empowering people in and through technology serves to bridge that gap.
Nice. So we have one going to Google, two at Harvard, and Camille's also at Google. So forgive me if my imposter syndrome is starting to kick in right now. No,
it's all about
it should not.
Yeah, don't feel like you're an imposter in this. This is just all like, yeah.
They could yank my offer any day now.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. And like I said, kudos and congratulations to all three of you for, again, just your individual accomplishments, but then, coming together to just bring this event that I feel is absolutely necessary in our space. So I want to get into how the Share the Mic in Cyber event started, but obviously it came from a necessity because of some challenges. So if you ladies would like to share some of the challenges that you have faced or still face, just kind of being in this career field, if you want to share that, anyone can go first.
Camille, I think you should start with that one.
Sure. So I think all three of us have a shared experience of being othered in this space, right? There are very few women in cyber, and even worse, at the intersection of race and gender, there are even fewer women of color and Black women in particular. So for me, just that othering is a hurdle. Not to mention all of the systemic and societal issues that layer on top of that, why that is a thing. And that's manifested itself a number of different ways in my career. When I was in government, I would get physically closed out of conversations. When I transitioned from government to tech, the way that they look at government experience by itself is flawed, but then layer on top of that gender and race, and that transition was not as it should have been. And there's just a lot of things broken in how this industry works and how people of color, women move through it. And so seeing and living through that experience, and in the wake of the murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and others, I felt particularly called to start writing about why systemic racism was a cybersecurity threat and a vulnerability, and something that we as practitioners needed to pay attention to, not just for moral reasons, but for the efficacy of the work, right? To be good practitioners, to truly understand the risk, you have to understand how race is rolling into that. And then born of that was meeting Lauren on Twitter and deciding that we wanted to pay homage to the Share the Mic Now campaign that went on in the entertainment space by creating one in cybersecurity and national security, because there was such a unique need in this space, but also an appetite from people to do more and to feel empowered to be a part of the solution. And that's what's most heartening about this, is that the outpouring of support that's come from it.
No, absolutely. And I believe, you wrote the article about the lack of diversity is a security issue, and I thought it was an amazing article. Lauren, Katelyn, anything you want to share?
Yeah, I'll just say a lot of this comes from my experience when I was in government and in the intelligence community. And I just want to preface this by saying, we all have sort of our journeys to understanding and, the world around us and how that can change, basically. When I was in government and the military, really, I think I always sort of felt like, why am I not getting ahead? Why am I not sort of feeling like maybe that I belong, or that there are opportunities out there for me? But I didn't know why. I just thought, well, this is the way it is, and maybe I just need to work harder, or maybe it's because I'm not going out on the golf course, right? I always refused to go learn how to play golf, because it was like, that's how, no offense, but like the older white men seem to network. And I was just like, I'm not doing that. I hate golf, but yeah, towards the end of my time in government, I just always felt like I was banging my head against a wall. And again, I didn't quite know why. I took a class when I was in DC. I was going to Georgetown, the security studies program, and I ultimately had to drop out of that program because we moved to Boston, but also I was deploying, and I couldn't do it in time. I just, I'd go overseas to, Afghanistan. And it really gave me the understanding of the environment. It was called Women in Leadership and National Security. And it started to give me some understanding of like, oh, okay, it's not just me. There's sort of like this systemic sort of, institutional thing, but I didn't necessarily have the language still to quite understand that. I think the election of Donald Trump really just sort of broke all the glass basically for me, shattered all the illusions for me. And I just remember it was a friend of a friend. So this person I didn't even know told this mutual friend of ours, I would never vote for a woman for president. And I don't know why. I don't know why that stuck with me so much. And I was just like, this is up here in the New England area, which is supposed to be, pretty progressive and liberal and things like that.
Yep.
And so that just set me on this journey of like, wow, I am not equal in this country. And therefore there are like, nobody's equal in this country. Right. And so I made it a point to start to educate myself. And while I was at the Kennedy School, I happened to, I'll just say, steal a book from an event. They had a whole stack of them. So I took one, and it was Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. And that just tore me, especially as a new mom, when your heart is just, sensitive as it is. It completely got to me. And just really, helped my sort of understanding. And then being, at the Kennedy School at the Belfer Center as the director of this program, I knew I had a platform. And then after, the murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, I was like, I need to do better. I can do better. And here's, an opportunity to do so. So as Camille was saying, as someone who has felt othered, and in the past, I didn't know why, I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't have the language to speak about it, being on this journey to understand that more is now like, okay, now I have this platform to try to make change. Because that's always been something that has been very important to me, is making change and fighting for other people. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. I just have to say, like, I'm so lucky to work with these two amazing women. Just, every time I get to hang out with you all, I just feel just so incredibly lucky, and also just so wowed about how much you both do. Like I said, today I just got to watch TV and hang out. I know you were both multitasking and doing way more. And so always just odd. I think, so what Lauren said about this kind of illusion that you're not doing enough or you're not enough has always really plagued me, like my entire career too. And just to contextualize, I think it is important to note that women only hold 25% of the total jobs in tech, and women in privacy and security are paid far less on average than their male counterparts, with women of color making less than that. So it's, it's not just an illusion that there are things that are holding us back. There really, really are these kind of structural inequities built into this field in particular. Mm-hmm. And I noticed the same thing, like Lauren mentioned, when she was in government. When I was starting my own tech company, there were always people that were just like kind of laughing at me or thinking it was silly or just a side gig. And I started noticing how much better I had to be than the men in the room, right? Men would just show up and like hastily throw on a suit and spit off some numbers. And then later I'd hear things like, there's no way that they can even get a trademark for what they're trying to sell, or like someone else owns the rights to this. Like, it just felt very strange to go into a room and try to get venture capital from a bunch of white men in suits while other white men in suits are in a line behind you to get that money. And when you walk out, you get nothing, or you get a few grand. And the guys behind you are making tenfold that, and with a faulty product. And I think it is strange too, when you go in with a platform or with a solution that people see as like social, because they also think, oh, that's something that women do. And it's not something that requires a lot of money, and it's not a real tech solution. And I think that's just, of course, it's just wrong. But it also feels really terrible to be in that room. And it feels terrible. I think at the time it was like 17% or 17 cents of every dollar went to women in venture capital. And it's the same now. And I think this really impacts our security business, right? You can't have security consulting firms or a diverse array of security options when you have so few women that are able to even kick off their own businesses. Right. So I think it's something that's important, something we need to address, and something I'm passionate about when it comes to SharetheMicInCyber.
Right. Absolutely. So first of all, thank all three of you for sharing. I know sometimes that can be uncomfortable or just difficult to talk about, because it's real. It's a real topic. But at the same time, it makes some people feel uncomfortable. And the whole point of talking about it is to make it uncomfortable till it's no longer uncomfortable. We need to address these things. We need to fix a lot of these issues. And you're absolutely right. The disparity, is like just enormous. And until we fix that, we're not going to fix anything. So with that, came the need for the SharetheMicInCyber event. I'll talk about my experiences about it, taking part in the first one after you ladies share about how you came together to form this event. So Lauren, you can go first.
Sure. So as Camille said, we met basically on Twitter. I saw the Share the Mic Now campaign on Instagram, and it was it was geared towards Black women in entertainment and politics. And I just sort of felt this jolt inside me, like this could work in cybersecurity and national security. And I had sent the message to a colleague basically, and then I think it was just hours later, I saw Camille Stewart had posted or tweeted about it. And we didn't know each other at all. I wasn't following her. I had never, really even heard of Camille. So I think it was fate that I saw this random tweet and I commented, and within hours we were DMing each other. And that was early June, with a lot of sort of furious activity behind the scenes at a very quick pace. 2 weeks later, we had it going essentially. So I'll let Camille continue if she wants to on that.
I mean, I think that really covers it. We, saw this campaign that was a great model, and we seized the moment where we connected to really invest in building it in this community. And I think it's bigger than us because it couldn't have been successful if all of you hadn't jumped in. If all of the Black practitioners hadn't been willing to share their stories and be so candid and be so vulnerable, and had the cyber allies not been willing and so eager to help create platforms for new voices and find a way to be more proactively engaged. And so, yes, we catalyzed this thing, but it has been given life and been given legs and been given wings by everyone else. That's why we have a scholarship program. That's why we can do interviews like this to tell more people about it, so that as the next campaign happens on March 19th, that it gets more reach, so your voices shine brighter. So I'm just grateful that happened, and grateful that Katelyn came on to help, because when Lauren went on maternity leave, Katelyn eagerly was like, how can I help? And but for her, we would not be here doing round 3. So, I mean, it all came together in this fortuitous, couldn't be planned, perfect set of circumstances way. And I'm grateful for this core group, but really everyone who has touched this program.
Yeah. That's amazing. I didn't know that it literally came together in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I remember the day I was tagged in the tweet, and that was honestly, I think, like 2 weeks, probably the same exact day. So, Katelyn, did you take part in the first? Did you take part in the first event?
So no, I mean, I am more in the privacy world, not super steeped in cyber, but I remember seeing everything and being like, wow, this is really interesting. I do want to help. And I'm part of the board of Women in Security and Privacy here in DC. So I reached out to some of our board members who are, participating. And I was like, I've heard about this. I've seen the scholarship fund that you all set up. Like, how can I get involved? I really want to help. And at the time I was like, I'll send a few emails. It'll be great. And folks were like, oh, reach out to Lauren and Camille. And so I reached out to Lauren, and she was heavily pregnant. Lauren, I don't know if you remember this, but you were like, I think on like a bouncing ball thing, you were like, I'm about to give birth. Why are you taking my time? And I was like, okay, let me just help. You're really seem like, you need somebody to take this off your plate before you go to the hospital. And that was really fun. That was a great conversation though, too, because Lauren is very much like, here's everything that, has to get done. Here's what my goals are. And every single campaign is bound to get bigger and better. Right. And I think that's what really attracted me to it, was like Camille and Lauren were saying, it's not just about us and what we're able to do. We're getting so many more supporting orgs interested in throwing side campaigns and getting everyone's voices out there and elevating the work of Black men and women in cyber and privacy. And so that's what made me interested in being like, wow, this could really grow and scale. And it really has. Every single campaign, we're getting so many more participants and so many more supporting orgs. I think we're up to, I want to say 14 supporting organizations now, who share and reshare content and throw events with us. And so it's only, only going to get bigger and only going to get better and more helpful as time goes on.
No, that's amazing. So I'm gonna share two parts of my experience with SharetheMicInCyber because I feel like it's important. But before I do that, I do want to give a shout out to my pack, to the chat. As always, you guys are what makes the show possible. You keep me going. So love and appreciation to all of you. So we do have a few people. DFIR Diva says hi, just hi. We have Willie Beeman says good evening, Davin, and shout out to Camille, Katelyn, and Lauren. Let's see, we have Mohammed Hovey says hello, ladies. We are glad to have you on here. The special woman in my life, Ladera Jackson, my wife, says hey everyone. Network Whiz Kid says what up, and he says he's just passing by and supporting. And Kalila Scott, friend of the show, also says, hey, ladies, it's nice to see you all again. And she loves the team. So, again, you guys are more than welcome to say anything you want in the chat. Just remember, you can ask me anything, but keep it clean, keep it respectful. Just please do that. Let's not let's not go off pace with this. So, my experience with SharetheMicInCyber. Like I said, I remember logging on to Twitter that week. Well, no, not even that week. When I first heard it, I want to say it was Najla Lindsay who tagged me in the original post. And I remember saying, sure, absolutely, I'll do it. I quickly did some research on Camille and Lauren. I'm like, okay. Because truth be told, there were a lot of, let's say, opportunists at that time who, in the Black community, a lot of people weren't sure if the support was genuine or performative. So, like I said, I looked it up and I said, okay, they seem like, they're upfront. I still submitted my information with a little bit of skepticism, but it's funny because in the weeks leading up to it, so many things happened. And I remember, like I said, the day of the event or that week of the event, I had literally said I was walking away. Like some stuff happened professionally. I had an incident that just kind of really set me off. And I was like, I'm done. And me being a man of my word, I'm like, well, I did commit to these events, so I'm going to participate in these events. I'm going to give it my best effort. But at the end of the event, I'm out. And I was partnered with Selena Larson from Dragos. So, and shout out to Selena. And I think I vented to her a couple times throughout the event, and she was just like, is there any way I can help? And I was like, I really don't know. And I remember doing the event and just feeling so overwhelmed with just the overall theme of just love and support on that day. Like, it was like, wow, maybe I could stick it out a little bit if it was more like this. And like I said, I remember doing a live stream that day. But I'll get to that live stream in a second. But like I said, I just remember that because it was so pivotal to everything that I think is even going on today, even with this show. So I don't want to talk about the results from your event, from that, especially that first event. But if you want to share some of the information about, some of the things that just came from that event and how you guys reacted to it, because I think it all happened in real time. So, if you want to just talk about some of the success stories from that very first event.
I want to say first that, I was so glad that you captured your reaction, because I think that was the moment that Lauren and I were like, oh, shoot, we did something, right? Like, we saw the momentum the day of, we saw that the scholarship had started to fund. So Najla and Rachel Toback, her partner, decided to try to raise funds for her. And then that grew. and they raised funds for everyone, and that has continued. But and we saw the interactions, we saw the commitment from the allies, and just the positivity, to your point, that flowed that day. But your reaction and capturing almost a 180 in terms of your perspective about staying in the industry and just realizing that there are good people here, and finding those voices in addition to them making space for us. I think that was a moment Lauren and I were like, oh, okay, we should take a deeper look at what the results are from this, how we can make sure that this is a sustained action. We always wanted it to be about action, but how can we sustain this? And I think your post was the catalyst for us being like, I guess this just can't be once. Like, we should keep doing this. This is all volunteer. So big shout out to Katelyn and Lauren for all the time and talent, and Andrew, who's been helping us, and Prachi, who's helped us before. We've had a lot of people dedicate their time and talent to making sure that this continues to grow and thrive. But I think we do it because of stories like yours. So your story of staying in the industry is a big outcome. Yolanda getting a board seat and her reflection was a big outcome. Najla getting her funding. Everyone who got funding that cycle was a great outcome. The relationships that have been built have been good outcomes, and the exposure that people have gained, and just the awareness. I mean, I collaborated with Aspen Digital to host a conversation, and some of the participants came to that around diversity, DE&I in cyber, and start building out potential projects that could get funded by like the Hewlett Foundation and others. School of Tech is, just did a call for funding around keeping Black people in cybersecurity. And I won't say that one specifically is due to us, but it's an outcome that maybe was spurred, by hearing your stories, by seeing that there are people here and stories to tell, and that there needs to be more room. And so I think there's lots. I'm sure Lauren and Katelyn have other anecdotes, but I wanted to shout you out because I'm glad that you put your pen to paper and your camera on and told everybody how it affected you, because it really meant a lot to us.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, Camille, I just love the way you put these narratives together and you just tell a story, and I know you mentioned some like training on that, and I'm going to take you up on that one day. You're right, though. When we started this, again, it was, 2 weeks of planning, going out to our networks individually and just, asking people, recruiting people. We were like in people's DMs, we were emailing and, asking people to do this. And most people hadn't, heard of a campaign like this. And so we had no idea that it would yield anything. Maybe it was just going to be, a day on Twitter and LinkedIn, and that's great, when we can highlight people, but we certainly had no clue, no expectation of really creating impact. But Camille's right. When we saw your story in particular, I know that struck me so much. And I do remember Selena was your partner too. And she's just, she's a wonderful person. It was, like Camille said, when we saw actual tangible actions come out of this, when people were invited to meetings, when people were invited to boards, when connections were being made, and people were gaining more understanding of what was going on in the industry. I remember we did a virtual happy hour at DEF CON after, and I don't remember who shared, because I'm sorry, I have mom brain, but somebody shared how they would go to work and they would sit alone at lunch because nobody wanted to sit with him because he was a Black man. And I'm like starting to tear up just like thinking about this, but how awful, and so stories like that just, it just spurs me to action. I like I said, I always feel like I've always wanted to like fight for people, and so it's not only the network that I've built, because I have no excuse now. Like if, I want to have a panel or an event, and, I have an entire network that I can draw upon and shout or plug for next week on Tuesday. I am hosting Yolanda Smith, Ashley Tolbert and Kiesens Phillips on a panel to talk about, the work that they do in the private sector and at the state level, to secure the things that we love, like salads, movies, and our favorite cities, like how that relates to national security. And I'm so excited about that. And we're actually getting a lot of signups for it too. So I got to be on my A game for sure. But yeah, it's the small actions, and it's just the outpouring of support and the connectivity, I think, that we're building that is just really wonderful.
No, absolutely. Katelyn, did you want to add to that, or?
I think that's great. And I want to say, just from like a personal standpoint too, I hear a lot of this same kind of thing from other women, and particularly women of color. It's like, I can't serve on that panel because I don't have the experience, or I can't be, on that podcast or be interviewed by that anchor because I don't know enough. I'm not experienced enough. And I think through this process, we combat that in really tangible ways, right? Like making sure that we are affirmatively reaching out to people and asking them, if they're comfortable to join. And then also doing things like, Discernible has been able to offer free media training, reputation training, first-time speaker trainings, and all of that is so powerful in this space. So in addition to all of these great things like building community, I think there is something powerful about that too, to make sure that people's voices aren't just elevated through this process, but elsewhere in their careers. And I wanted to give a shout out to Kalila too, who's in the audience, because she said something really powerful too. She said, about her time with TechSec Chicks, that we're all growing together, we're all in different kinds of paths, and we all support each other. And I think that's the same thing for SharetheMicInCyber.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I guess I will reveal it now that Kalila will actually be my guest next week. So yes, I'm excited about that. And she's doing amazing work. But yeah, like I said, it definitely, both events were, but like I said, just again, I think because of how everything that was going on in the world at that time, it was very emotional, to just see the outpouring of support. Again, you're coming in contact with people who you never probably would have. Like, I wouldn't have known Camille or Lauren or a Rachel Toback or a Selena Larson, and again with this with that event as opposed to other events, and I'm not knocking other events, but like I said, at that time there were a lot of people taking advantage of that situation, and saying that they support this or that they stand against racism or whatever, and then in a couple months it was like, right. So to see that this event withstood that and had the outpouring that it did, and it was genuine and you felt it, and that says a lot for a virtual event in 2020 during a whole bunch of tension, whether it's racial, political, the virus, everything. So in that environment, in that just pressure cooker where everybody's just insensitive to anything right now and no one trusted anybody, that event really, I think, changed a lot of minds. And like I said, not just speaking from my perspective, even other people that I've talked to, and I've had private conversations with, because again, we talk and like, you really think this is, you really think they're going to support us, and let's just see what happens, and then after the event, it was like, nah, I'm so glad I did it. And then, again, just not even the event, after the event, like so many things happened. And like I said, even after that stream where I was like, screw it, I'm just going to speak my mind and I'm just going to talk about how I feel. And yeah, you get some of the negative output. Like I still get the comments. I'm pretty sure there'll probably be comments in the show, on the page for this episode. But, you tune that out because of the outpouring. And then, like I said, yeah, seeing people getting asked to to be on boards and, getting scholarships funded. And again, just meeting people who you never would have imagined you would ever meet just from one event is, like I said, is just truly powerful. So again, kudos to all three of you. Now, you said earlier that, this will be, so you've had two events so far, and you have an event coming up on March 19th. So talk about, that event as well as future plans for SharetheMicInCyber.
So our upcoming event is March 19th. A lot of people were kind of probing us, like, what are you going to do for Black History Month? And, Camille and I were just like, whew, after the holidays, after like a very bruising, election season. And, we're like, okay, we have to do something. But, February was so quick. And we're like, okay, why don't we focus on Black History Month and Women's History Month together. So let's put it together and let's have this event in March. So we are focusing on Black women in cybersecurity and privacy this time around, and really focusing on that intersectionality, really trying to, elevate women's voices in this space, to, again, all the aim of all the previous events, so connection, networking opportunities, etc. And I will let Camille talk about future plans.
Oh, that's funny. So we don't know. Like I said, it's all volunteer. I mean, there are a lot of events around this campaign, March 19th. You see the Twitter event that's tomorrow. I hope you guys plan to watch the panel and then engage with us on Spaces, and a number of other trainings and things. But concrete plans, we're trying to figure that out. What we'd like to do is institutionalize this. We don't want this to die. This is so important. I think the industry has a long way to go yet, despite a lot of people showing that they have a heart for this issue. But this is all volunteer. And so we are trying to figure out how to make this sustained or sustainable and sustain it while not dying from the work. Because each time it grows, that also means more work for us. And while we love it, my job, is also demanding and kind of gets mad when I don't work. But I am excited to see where that takes us. The nice thing is that we've had a number of people and organizations want to help us in that regard. So I'm hoping that we actually have an announcement for everyone sooner rather than later, where we're like, this is how this lives on forever. But we don't know just yet.
All right. Well, yes, anything that we can do in the community to help, keep it going, because it definitely has to happen. Like it can't be this would be a 3-time thing. And like I said, especially with what you're doing for this event, in particular for women or women of color, or in the community, that's definitely crucial. And one of the things that I've been working on, or that I really want to do, and I ask all of my guests, is ideas on how we can bring more women and children into cybersecurity. So Katelyn, I'm gonna start off with you. What do you think we could do, everybody can do, to attract more women and just more people into cybersecurity? Because eventually all these holes are going to catch up to us. All these gaps, these employment gaps, the education gaps, the diversity gaps, eventually is going to come home to roost, and that's going to effing suck. So what ideas do you have?
I think it's roosting now, right? I think we're really acutely feeling a lack of diversity in the field. And like Camille said, I started off when I was like, I want to be an attorney, but I don't know what career fields are open to me. I love technology. I guess the only one that's possible is intellectual property, right? It just felt like the only viable career path. So I think for me, it's about making this career path more viable for young people and for young women in particular that just don't see this as a possibility. Like I grew up in a really, really small, really rural town. I had a graduating class of 56 and I was one of two who ended up going to college. And so I think it's difficult. I think it's hard to reach communities where this is needed, or, I would have loved to see representation when I was growing up and I didn't see that. And how do you get that to children that are still young enough to be able to, appreciate or think, wow, I could be like that, instead of thinking, wow, I don't know, I've been in my career for so long, it's hard to change the trajectory. But then I think in addition to that, it's also about presenting this as a potential opportunity for those in their careers already, right? I've seen so many folks transition mid-career and just be like, hey, I have all of these tools. I come from an HR background. I come from hard tech. I want to start doing this more. And so making this more of a viable career path kind of for everyone is important. Not sure how to do that except for show people, through our actions, through our steps, that this is possible. And I think that's a really important part of the March 19th campaign. And that's why we're working with groups like Girl Security to say, hey, this is a thing. This is something that you could be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that making it relatable is important. Showing people, you don't have to have a CS degree or come from a coding or technology background to get into it. You can bring your experiences from other, career fields and turn that into a skill set in technology. Philip Wiley and Kim Crawley's book, The Pen Tester Blueprint, they actually give examples, and they use, they used, someone who's great with a POS system at a supermarket, how that can translate, and I think that's one of the big things, because when you talk about cybersecurity, especially in my field of pen testing, the two things is, oh, that sounds really complicated, or, oh, that sounds really illegal. So it's kind of like, you have to make it where it's not as, mysterious, or, got to get rid of this whole aura that you have to be a super genius, because I'm not a genius. But like I said, I was an aircraft mechanic, and then I tried electrical. I worked in a warehouse. I worked at Verizon for a little while, and now I'm doing cybersecurity. I never would have thought that would have, all of that would have gotten me here, but a little bit of everything that I've done has gotten me to this point, or has helped me at one point in my career. So I definitely think, trying to relay that information, that you can take your skills that you have now, and there's so many things in technology or cybersecurity, you can find something. I mean, if you're good at writing, you can be a technical writer and not actually have any real hands-on experience. You can kind of just be a technical writer, know the ins and outs of it enough, and, write about it. So, yeah, that's my take. So, Lauren, Camille, do you have any thoughts you want to share on how we can bring this to the forefront? I mean, outside of events like this.
Sure. I'll say, so it's funny you bringing up, like, getting into this career field. I remember in college, this was a long time ago now, I took a computer science course and I hated it. I did horrible at it. Didn't understand it. I remember there was something having to do with the Access database, and I don't know, I think I barely passed it, to be honest with you. So it's very surprising, I think, that I'm here. But, and I like this from the policy side. I'm not a technical person. And to your point, I think there's just so many different areas and different career fields and that you can get into, if you want to be in the cyber domain. So, if you're really interested in these hard national security problems, or, you know, trust and safety problems, there's still room for you, even if you do not know how to code at all, because that's me. As far as more, you know, women and more, you know, people of color into the this domain, one idea that I've had and talked to, you know, different people about it is the concept of a service year. And I think this probably is, you know, because I, you know, have come from the military and government, things like that. But I look at it as a win-win. I would love to be able to give people the opportunity to receive training and get really valuable experience while still sort of like serving your country for a year, you know, in different capacities. And so that person gets training, they get experience, and you know, the nation gets, you know, a person who's now trained and experienced in cybersecurity. So I would love to see something like that. Interesting.
Yep. Because usually people kind of either get the training and leave because the money's not there, or they, you know, like I said, they just don't do it. All right, Camille, what are your thoughts?
I'll just build off what Katelyn said and say that investing early, and someone else in the comments said something about pipeline, getting people engaged and understanding that access and exposure is really important. But we can't think about it in silos, right? Knowing that Davin exists, knowing that I exist, knowing that Lauren exists, knowing that Katelyn exists is part of that pipeline investment. People need to see it to believe it. People want to be basketball players, and they want to be lawyers, and they want to be doctors because they've seen people doing that work. They know what that looks like. They feel like they have an understanding of the ins and outs, right? And when you look at cybersecurity and see no one that looks like you, or to your point, Davin, it seems really mysterious and opaque, you don't find yourself called to do that work or to investigate further or to go past that one failed CS course to see if there's another part of cybersecurity that might be interesting. And so that early exposure, that work that Girl Security is doing, that opportunity for girls to own it, right? And to put it in language that they understand. Let's talk about national security and cybersecurity from your perspective. What do you feel like security is online? And having them own how cybersecurity shows up in their life right now so that they can own how it will show up in their life later, whether that is as a career choice or as some other kind of practitioner, but engaging intentionally and thoughtfully in their personal digital security and being able to demand of the companies they engage with where they want to see them operate from a privacy and security perspective. So I encourage people not to think about it in segments. Like, all of this flows together. And so giving Davin a platform helps there be a next generation.
Yes. No, I love that. That was one of my slogans for this year is it can be done and it can be us, right? Because
love that.
You don't see, you know, I think of two things. I think of when we first moved to Georgia and my daughter saw a Black female doctor. And she was like, I never knew. Like, I basically, I never knew that was a thing, you know, that could happen. And for me personally, I think of, I guess it would probably be my first recollection of imposter syndrome when I decided I was going to invest in myself and learn pen testing. And I went down, I bought the CEH stuff, and then I figured I needed to get some hands-on knowledge. So I paid for a boot camp, a week-long boot camp down in Virginia. And I drove from Connecticut to Virginia. And I remember the very first day, and I think there was like 2 of us in the room. And I remember sitting there going, I think I made a mistake. I spent a lot of money and I'm probably not going to get anything from this. What am I going to do? And I'm starting to freak out. And my instructor walked in, and it was Keytron Evans from the InfoSec Institute. And I was like, oh, there's a Black man teaching this course. Okay. You know, it was just like, all right, cool. I can breathe now. And then knowing that he was approachable, because let's be real, some of us aren't, but to sit there and talk to him, and he was willing to sit there till 1 o'clock in the morning and just talk shop and give you, you know, just give you his knowledge. And it was just like, I remember leaving there going, oh yeah, I can definitely do this, and I'm going to kill this career field. So representation matters, and like I said, yeah, it can be done, and it can be us, and it has to be, because if we don't show them, and especially in the time that we're living in now of ratchet TV, social media, these false images that kids, especially teenagers, especially teenage girls, see of what success looks like. If we don't change that narrative, we're going to run into a lot of problems. So I definitely feel like, no, it can be us. And look, you can actually live a decent lifestyle without having to do any of this stereotypical nonsense. So that's definitely, like I said, a passion of mine. Like I said, especially watching my two kids come up, and I'm like, yeah, I have to leave it in a better place than where I got it. It has to be better for them, because if they have to deal with this crap when they're adults, then I failed them as a father. And that's just like I guess that's my my motivation, and we're gonna get to that in a second. But if you could give one piece of advice for someone who is brand new into technology, security, privacy, and they said, this is what I want to do. What one, I mean, it could be a couple pieces of advice, but what piece of advice would be one of the first things you would tell them if they wanted to get into it? Anyone can go first.
Don't be deterred. Do it. Whatever the skill, similar to what we were just talking about, all the skill sets are welcome. All frames of reference are welcome. All lived experiences, all backgrounds, not only welcome, but necessary. Cybersecurity is a human-centered problem. So different viewpoints, different lenses, understanding both the people you're seeking to protect or the people who are perpetrating the attacks is extremely important. And so if you bring a lens to that, or if you bring a marketing or training lens so that we can communicate these complex challenges and scenarios better, all of that is necessary. Come to this field eager to learn, because you will always be learning, and just do it.
Nicely said. Katelyn, how about you?
I always tell people to get on Twitter, not just because I'm like, oh, it's a great platform, but because I think it's important to build community. It's a career field, sure, but there are people who are so passionate and care so much about this. Me included, all I tweet about is cyber and privacy. And so I think it is important to join that community and see what's being said and be in the room. And I think that's where everything kind of starts. And I want to say to your point, Davin, about imposter syndrome, I've been thinking a lot about this and how it's kind of, in some ways, it's a misnomer, right? It puts all the onus on us as individuals and being like, you have this syndrome, it's your fault. Listen to a hype song and get ready and just do it, which is good and great. But like the responsibility of fixing fundamentally flawed and broken systems and institutions shouldn't just be on us. That feeling isn't just like, oh, wow, we're so, flawed. That's a real feeling. If you feel like you're not welcome in a space and you feel like, I look around and I don't see anyone who looks like me or acts like me, who's in my community, that is a flaw of that system. And the work needs to be done by people who aren't just feeling imposter syndrome. It needs to be done by people who have the tools to fix those systems. So I hope that that's meaningful. And, I feel imposter syndrome all the time. And, I'm sure that it's a common facet of being in the field.
Absolutely. Okay. Go ahead, Lauren.
I was trying to think of something meaningful to add to this. And so I think I'm just going to draw on my experience, because that's what I know. When I left government to come to, this startup, to come to cybersecurity. So, again, I left basically everything I knew, government for startup, friends and nice way, and CT for cyber, it was really, really hard. And I think it took me 6 months to sort of catch my breath and be like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. And then it took me a full year to feel comfortable. And so that's the advice that I would give to someone coming into this who's new, is give yourself time to learn. I like to tell the story of when I first joined Recorded Future, I was a sales engineer. So I was a person who would go with the salesperson to demo the software. And while, they had sent me to, a SANS course to learn basic networking, I really learned about cyber threats, just on the job through reading, on my own. And I just remember being in a demo and someone asking me about APT29, and I did not know what that was. And I just felt so stupid and so like, what am I doing? Here I was it was a completely different environment for me, but I stuck it out. And I'm so glad that I did, because, I just, now I'm in this spot, to work on these issues and to think about, hard policy problems, but I wouldn't be here had I not gone through some very difficult, some challenges and learning about that. Now, I will say this, I was not in a toxic environment, and so I think for people who find themselves in a toxic environment, that's a different story. And, to recognize what that looks like and what that feels like, because, it shouldn't be the norm. And perhaps, for a lot of people, it does happen to them. And I hope that they have sort of the toolkit to recognize what may be happening there and how to extricate yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm not, again, conversation for another day. All right. So, we are now at 7:00. Are you ladies free for a little bit of Q&A?
A couple minutes, sure.
Okay, so all right, 2 things real quick. I'll just make them into one question. Personal and professional goals for 2021, and every guest I have, I ask, what is your why? So the why is, what keeps you going, what keeps you motivated, even when you're doing it for free or the money's not enough, or you're just like, I can't deal with it anymore. What keeps you going? So goals and why. Ready, go.
My goals are more impact, whatever that manifests itself as. And my personal goals is to have a personal life. I take on so much because I'm so passionate about helping people and empowering people in and through tech and initiatives like this, that I want to make sure that I'm creating space for balance. I think I answered all 3 questions wrapped up in there. Boom.
Yep, there you go. Multitasking. All right, Lauren, you're next.
Okay. I've come to sort of realize my why. It's making change. And through that, it's to imagine. So I think I have good ideas. That's like my value prop. So imagine, then build it and connect people and, together. So that's my why. And as far as personal or professional goals, I would really love a vacation. And yeah, I kind of just want to, I want a little bit of vacation. And then also I want to write some more. That's one thing like I really need to do more of. I need to get more practice and make more space for myself to do that.
All right. Last but not least, Katelyn.
So definitely echoing Lauren, want a vacation really badly. I don't know why this is like my week off and I'm here in my basement, but really would love a vacation. That sounds amazing. Spending more time with loved ones. I think, we're all seeing the power of that, particularly with the past year and how we've been able to travel and see people. I want to visit my 91-year-old grandpa, that would be fantastic. In terms of, professional goals or what I want to get out of this year or moving forward, I want to get to a better future. And I think part of that is through this campaign, through SharetheMicInCyber. And that's what drives me. And like I said about cyber and privacy and tech is like, I love surrounding myself with people that we all care about this. We're all so passionate about this. We just love this work. And I think that really shines through. It's so fun to work on a project that you care about with people who feel the same way. So just, keep surrounding myself by people who care, with people who care.
Yes, absolutely. So chat, if you guys have questions, now would be the time, and move quickly. These ladies are extremely busy. So, but before we do that, I believe in giving everybody their flowers while they're able to smell them. And you three are doing amazing work. What you're doing is touching so many people that I know you know of and probably that you don't even know of. And on a personal note, I don't think this show happens without that event. I don't think, because from me giving that talk and then seeing how many people responded to it, and then saying, I now have a network of people who, again, people new in the field don't think these people are reachable. That event, or that whole week, from the BS that happened leading up to it to the event itself, I came in contact personally with so many people who have made so many connections. I don't think InfoSec Unplugged, the idea for InfoSec Unplugged, that would have never sparked if it wasn't for that event. I knew I wanted to do something, but I was like, I don't know what to do. Everybody's doing pen testing until they get banned off of YouTube. I don't know what to do. And when that event happened, it was like bringing people together and letting other people interact with them and just see who they are in their natural element. That's perfect. So I thank you ladies for having that event, coming up with the event, inviting me to be a part of the event. And like I said, anything I can do to support it, you know how to find me. So just say when, and I'm there. So I appreciate all three of you. Like I said, chat, if you guys have anything. If not, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you ladies go, but
Wait, Devin, I want to say something real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say thank you for that. That's amazing. I think you are amazing. I'm so happy that we met, and I'm so happy that you shared your story. I'm very touched right now. I'm, trying to keep it together. But truly, I'm so happy to know you. I think you're amazing. So thank you.
I appreciate you. Like I said, I appreciate all three of you. And like I said, I'm sorry. Did someone else say something? I didn't.
No, I just was echoing Lauren. So thank you, Devin.
No problem. And I'm going to leave it at this. Who's this? Hat and Dog says, get more women. And I 100% agree. And I think that's a great way to sign off. So chat, like I said, I will go through a couple of them real quick, but like I said, ladies, I appreciate you. Again, like I said, I don't think this show happens if it wasn't for you in this event. And, I just appreciate you, all tremendously. So real quick, let's see. Barbie Ting says, it's hard to see yourself in a space where no one like you exists. This is true. Willie Beeman says, to Lauren, great point. I'll be the first to sign up for the program. Let's see. Trying to just jump around. Let's see. Hat and Dog also says, I personally think the best way to get more people in cyber is to actually start with children and teenagers. Make sure they're comfortable with getting into tech, and the next generation of women can flourish in cyber. That's a great sentiment. It's just a matter of how. Like I'm trying to find different ways. I'm trying to do things through gaming, or even I might even consider going on TikTok. I don't know.
Hey, take us with you. We should go to TikTok.
My daughter keeps telling me there's like a whole cybersecurity community on TikTok, and I said I'm okay with it. I'm just not dancing. It's just not gonna.
We do have a cyber and privacy influencer, a TikTok influencer, who's joining our campaign this round. So look out for Gufron if everyone is interested.
Do it.
Yeah, do it. Please do tweet, retweet, share the campaign, and most of all, act within your communities.
Yes. And finally, Kalila says, I love that you ladies are trying to be a voice for people and women like me. I wish all people thought that way. Absolutely. And again, that is okay. That is all we have because there's some comments I'm not going to say. But again, Lauren, Katelyn, Camille, thank you for joining. Best of luck with the March 19th campaign and future campaigns. And like I said, let's keep this rolling. So to everyone here, I thank you for joining. If you want, you could, please follow me on Twitter, DJax Alpha. You can also follow me or subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/C Alpha Cybersecurity. And if you like what I'm doing here, you can always buy me a coffee. And finally, if you want more information, I'm going to paste this in the chat because I thought I did that before. If you want more information on the event and how to participate, you can go to SharetheMicInCyber. Wait, where is it? Okay, there we go. Come on, live stuff. There we go. Why is it only okay? SharetheMicInCyber.splashhat is at .com. I don't know why it's just doing the dots, but I will fix that. I will put that in the show notes. It's in the show notes on YouTube already. So if you guys want to participate, please participate. Like I said, they got the campaign going on. They have the scholarship. If you want to contribute to the scholarship, please do that. Like I said, let's get more people involved. Let's get more women involved. And let's just keep the ball rolling. So, ladies, I salute all three of you. To everyone, you guys have a great night, and I will see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks.